start this. Yes, Steve. Okay. It's good to hear from you again. How are you?
I'm hanging in.
Hanging in?
Yeah.
Okay. I have some questions for you. Um, we followed the elections, your elections in America, with great anticipation, and it seems that the Democrats are winning. So Biden is holding his own against Trump. And well, I was curious if the truth embargo will be affected by Biden. Does he has an agenda, for instance, to uh, to speed things up, like Hillary was trying to do?
Yes. Biden winning the presidency is going to improve the disclosure process. Hang on a second. I need to start over.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm getting. I'm getting.
Yeah. Take your time, Steve.
I'm getting echo. I don't know why that is. I'm not that close to the mic.
I can hear you fine. It's really good over here.
Yeah. Trouble is, you see if that's any better.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. I think that's a little better. Let's start over.
Okay, so it's the same question I was asking with the new election that happened in America with Biden versus Trump. If the Democratic Party has any, will they start a campaign, for instance, to speed up the truth embargo, that it will vanquish eventually? Do they have programs, things on the agenda?
The situation here is complex. I think most people agree with that.
Yeah.
There's no formal indications of any intentions by the Biden administration, which is just being formed. He's putting it together right now. We know some of the people that are there, but his election significantly affects the prospects for disclosure in 2021. There's no question about that. And I've talked about this now extensively for a while. And there are many reasons for that, but probably the most significant is that the present administration has created an enormous amount of confusion and chaos, disruption. Many people voted for the current president specifically to be a disruptor. Fine. I mean, they certainly got, if that's what they wanted, they got it. But the climate, political climate, for executing a maneuver as profound and complicated as disclosure, it was not conducive at all. And I believe that the people that are out in the forefront of this issue elected to slow things down, pace it out.
Yeah.
Which includes me. I mean, I definitely made the decision to slow way down. I wasn't really on the field anyway, but even in terms of off the field doing what I could do, I slowed it down to wait and see what happened.
Yeah.
And what happened, of course, is that we have a Biden as president. Then we have the Congress to deal with, which is also important.
Yeah.
It will be a Democratic Congress, which means that the committee chairs will be the same party as the president. The Senate, however, it remains to be seen. As an extraordinary occurrence of two runoffs in the same state for the Senate at the same time. And that means, so we will not know the Senate until January 6th, maybe January 7th. There are three possibilities: 52-48 Republican, 51-49 Democrat, and 51-49 Republican, or 50-50 with a tie vote with the vice president who oversees the Senate. But in that case, there would be Democratic committee chairs. Okay. So the most stable I think the ideal situation for what I think is coming would be Democratic-controlled Senate, Democratic-controlled House, and of course a Democrat in the White House. Now, with that in mind, I should point out that the two houses, because the Democrats lost quite a few seats, I think it's going to be 222, 213. So the two houses are very close. So in terms of what we'll call partisan legislation, or just basic politics, it's going to be it's not going to be a free ride. Neither party is going to be able to, I think, get what they want all the time. It's going to require far more cooperation, which we need desperately. So even with that outcome, but the truth embargo and the extraterrestrial phenomena issue is nonpartisan. It's not Democrat or Republican.
Okay.
And so the ability to address it will not be hampered too much by the political issues. However, having the same party having all the committee chairs will, I think, make it a little easier to get hearings. So that's the assessment of the political situation come 2021. And why this is important is that I am convinced that the table has been set for congressional hearings on the ET issue. Witnesses have been lined up. Committee chairs have certainly been met with. There will be more meetings, I'm quite sure, after January 6th, when the Congress is set again and all the committee chairs are set. I suspect you'll see more meetings on the Hill with some of them prior to inauguration.
Sorry that I interrupt you, Steve. Does President Trump, the ex-president, does he have to concede his presidency? Does he have to concede in a speech or something?
That is not a legal requirement.
Okay. So
he can say nothing. He can take a vacation.
He's doing that.
Just go away for a month or more, and doesn't have to appear at the inauguration.
Okay.
Who knows? But the transition period has been also chaotic, and which just helps to ensure that nothing is going to happen on the ET disclosure issue until after January 20.
Well, is Trump in the loop on the extraterrestrial issue?
Depends what you mean by in the loop. If you mean extensively briefed by military intelligence people, no.
Okay.
Knowledgeable on the subject,
military background, I understand. So because on the media he's not there. If something happens on the extraterrestrial issue, he doesn't say anything. The only thing he says is we have the best military in the world.
It's not an issue.
Okay.
During this administration. There have been the odd question asked and a little bit, but not surprisingly, the issue has been all over the news for the last 4 years, of course. But again, it's just not an issue for this administration. And we're about to head into the next administration. And I predict that things will move forward quickly. I think I can make a pretty powerful case why hearings on the ET issue should take place as early as possible in the Biden administration. There's some very powerful reasons for that. Okay. How early, of course, what does that mean? Probably the most important timing factor right now is the vaccines. When the vaccines get in, how many people are vaccinated, or just what is the public's perception of the virus's future come February 1? Are they seeing very strongly that things are about to get better? Are we seeing vaccinations probably will have already taken place for all of the medical frontline people and also nursing home people. I think they can get that done certainly by February 1. That's millions, but they can do that. So if the public's perception is okay, we're getting out of this, then I think hearings could take place pretty quickly. If the virus takes a nasty turn and things are still looking very problematic come February, it could delay it. I would hope that these hearings would not start any later than May 1. I would hope they get started before May 1.
Okay. And another question is that the Star Force military group that has been initiated by Trump in his term, do you think that Star Force, in your opinion, was already there before Trump announced it? Was it already in force?
The Space Force was a project of this administration. Some formality was created, and some funding was passed on to the DoD. I believe that it is far less important than it seems.
Yes.
The U.S. military, DoD, has had a classified space program forever, and have been addressing all of the potential national security aspects of space, classified, right?
Yeah.
The Space Force, I guess you could say, put a somewhat of a public face on it. I doubt that the Department of Defense wanted that. They did not want that. So I don't put much credence in it. I don't see it as nearly as important as some think, and I can make a case for why it's a bad idea.
Okay.
But I seriously doubt there's any connection between that creation of the Space Force and the extraterrestrial issue. It may be perceived that way, and people can speculate, but I think the hard reality is I do not think there's much of a connection there, though it raises concerns. Space Force, okay, to fight what?
Yes.
What are you talking about? Are we talking about other nations' satellites? Are we talking about orbiting nukes? Are we talking about ETs? This is not clear. But again, I'm not concerned about that now. We'll see what happens to the Space Force in the Biden administration.
Okay. And John Podesta, where is he in all this? And the latest developments, he doesn't seem to be a voice anymore. At least we don't have much news about it on this side of the world. But he's very active, I'm sure, behind the curtains.
I don't know about that. When the Clinton campaign lost the election, essentially the Clintons and John Podesta moved off the stage, and there was no engagement of the ET issue, which is notable because, as you know, Clinton was interviewed, and there were many statements made by the Clinton campaign, not only from her, but Podesta, President Bill Clinton, even Barack Obama, and hundreds of articles were written. It was fully in play.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. I was pretty much responsible for that. I'm the one that generated those stories and got the ball rolling.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But when she loses the election, absolutely nothing, which tells you that her attitude about the issue changed when she didn't win the election, meaning they had no intention of, they did not want that issue to be highlighted during the administration of the current president. Now, Podesta has turned up from time to time with various issues, but so has Clinton, but they have kind of stayed in the background. That loss was a very significant Democratic failure.
Yeah.
And so everyone involved in it, I guess you could say, needed to go and contemplate contemplate politics and whatever, and not get out in front too much, because people were not happy about it. But Podesta has not turned up virtually at all, a little bit, over the last 4 years on this issue. Nothing commensurate with, we know, the background that the Clintons have with the issue. Now, I expect that to change after January 20 rather. I would be shocked if the Clintons do not insert themselves into the ET issue in any number of ways after January 20. What's about to go down is huge, and they have the most extensive political track record here than any other political figures right now in the United States, and they're not going to be left on the sidelines as this unfolds. Now, how they will engage it and what part they'll play, I don't know. But don't be surprised if you don't start seeing articles in which former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and even President Bill Clinton and Podesta are being interviewed and talking about this issue.
Yes, okay. The other thing is ATIP is very much in the news. The New York Times has written countless articles about it. It's a Navy establishment in the Pentagon, ATIP. Is it not the Navy? No?
No.
Under which?
The TTSA is what's been in the news, the To the Stars Academy.
Yes.
Of Arts and Science, but we throw that out. TTSA. They are the ones that presented the ATIP story to the New York Times.
Yeah.
And the gun camera footage, and so forth. They created quite a bit of media. All right.
Yeah, with Chris Mellon also, and he openly stated that extraterrestrials are there. Chris Mellon.
Who said that? Who openly stated that?
Chris Mellon, the federal.
No, he hasn't, Bart. He has assiduously avoided saying that extraterrestrials are here. He has intimated the possibility. He has certainly made statements which could easily be that a logical person might conclude. But he and the entire group have gone out of their way not to say matter of fact that extraterrestrials are here. However, they have been very active. They generated a lot of media about, I'm up to around 700 articles archived on my website related to the TTSA and consequences of their actions, which includes the ATIP program, which includes the creation of a UAP task force over at the Office of Naval Intelligence at the behest of the Pentagon, which is, again, a reaction to this. So there's been a lot that has happened, which is fundamentally a result of the actions of TTSA, without question. Mm-hmm. However, as we move closer to the end of the current administration's term, they have stepped back. And since the end of the second season of Unidentified, which I think ended, I don't know, back in August or something, they've been very, very quiet.
But ATIP they put the question of extraterrestrials again in the news, apart from TTSA.
Again, when you refer to ATIP, Bart, ATIP is a program that was set up in the Pentagon for a while. It's closed now. Yeah. So it's not in play. That's not an issue right now. Okay. ONI has not said anything. Okay. Right? If you're looking for comments, you look to the TTSA, and you look to the occasional comment from some of our political figures like Rubio and others. But there's been very little. And since the Unidentified series on History Channel shut down, there has been almost nothing from the TTSA people, and that is intentional. They now know that, or they anticipate, I think they were pretty confident as of August, if not sooner, that there would be an administration change come election. And so they have slowed everything down, waiting for the new administration, the new government to take place. And then they're going to engage that administration, I think, vigorously.
So in your opinion, things are already ready to be activated when the new administration is there?
I do. I believe that. I believe the table is set. It could move very quickly, and the pandemic is the unknown fact. Now, there could be other things that could happen. We could have a major military breakout problem, right? A war or something certainly serious. It could lead to war. Could delay what I think is set to go, and that happens. And let's hope it doesn't happen. Let's hope we don't have anything like that. because we need to get this disclosure done. We need to get past it.
Yeah.
We need to get into the post-disclosure world. But the way to disclosure, the way to the announcement from the president, goes through the Congress. It goes through congressional hearings so that the public, and not just American people, but the world's people, can see extraordinary evidence presented almost certainly by military witnesses to multiple committees, answering very important questions, creating what will be a very solid conclusion amongst the vast majority of people watching these hearings that, yes, this is an extraterrestrial non-human phenomena. And then the president can make the announcement, and all of this will be a very orderly and I think not particularly upsetting process, though exciting, which is what you want. You do not want to do, you're playing with something of this magnitude. It's got to be done responsibly. Now, responsibly doesn't mean dragging out for another 70 years, I can assure you. We're way past the shelf life on this embargo. Yeah. It should have been opened up a good long time ago. But nevertheless, the final act of disclosure, or the process leading to disclosure, needs to be in the best interest of the American people and not disruptive. And I think that that's what we're going to see.
And in your opinion, Steve, is the drip feeding, is that a good thing? Drip feeding, the way they act on this, in slow amounts of information that gets into the world?
Speaking generally, the government, the U.S. government, and I think some other governments, have tossed out occasionally a bone to the interested public. It's a metaphor, right? Tossing a bone to a dog, or tossing out some breadcrumbs, just enough to show the people that they are aware of their interests, they are aware of the evidence that's turning up and everything else, but without igniting a reaction that would force disclosure on the government. And this has been a successful policy. It keeps people somewhat content. In the scientific world, you've also had this drip effect where the scientific world will suddenly come out with something that is interesting about the idea of life elsewhere. Now, do I think the scientific world knows a hell of a lot more about life elsewhere than they're dripping out? Oh, you betcha. And they'll have to answer for that. They'll have to explain later on why you, as a scientist or scientific organization, needed to play along with the drip feed scenario that the government was pursuing. Was it under direct government command, or were you coerced, or were you just feeling we don't want to rock the boat? Why did you do that? You're a scientist. You're in the truth business. You're in learning what the world is like. Now, there are some responses that would be perhaps convincing that, well, look, this is what we had to do, and here's why. We'll see. But they do have to answer for that, because the scientific community has not been straight on this issue, for
sure,
that's not a good thing. Because you get in that habit, and then you start being not straight on other things, right? And yes, then people lose confidence in science. Guess what's going on right now around the world, but particularly in the United States? Confidence in science is being lost because people are not getting the straight answers, either because of political interference or because the scientific community is tangled up or conflicted, whatever. And so we need to move past that too. We need to get into a situation where scientific understanding is at the forefront of our political decisions.
Well, if you study the files like we do over here, the military files, you have also in France, the files of the military in France, you see that they try to weaponize all things related to extraterrestrials, and that seems to be the struggle between the nations. They just want to be the first one to have the newest item of the extraterrestrial reverse engineering. That is, it seems to be the case that this is what's happening all the time, and therefore it slows down, the disclosure is slowing down each time, because they just don't want to give their trump cards, just don't want to play any cards to another nation.
First of all, I take issue with the word weaponize. I think that's not necessarily appropriate. We assume that weaponization or attempts to weaponize ET-related technology is taking place. All right, that's part of the total picture. It's possible that that's happening in more than one country. It's possible that there is an ET technology weapons race. I hope that's not the case. If there is, the sooner the world knows that, the better. But what the government's been doing is not weaponizing the issue. That each government has made a decision to go along with the truth embargo for various reasons. We know this because no government head of state has ever confirmed the extraterrestrial presence. Right? So every government de facto has gone along with the truth embargo, but for different reasons. Nevertheless, as I said before, these governments still do things. They'll do something that's kind of positive. In other words, it supports or helps the citizen science activist movement. If Peru or Chile or some South American nation sets up a research program within their Air Force or something, or if a high-level group in France puts out a report like the Cometa report, these are helpful, and they're coming from the government side. But again, it's limited. It's only going to go so far. Yes. So they're trying to be reasonable. They're trying to be somewhat responsible within the context of the truth embargo, which has its own rationale, and I can respect that. Did they go too far? Mm-hmm. This truth embargo probably should have ended not that long after the Cold War ended in 1991. I believe if it had, our situation right now globally in terms of destabilization and nuclear weapons and other conflicts would have been less. I think it would have changed the course of history in extremely good ways, but we'll never know. So it's been too long. It's now 30, what is it? It's 30 years, almost 30 years since the Cold War ended, and there's still essentially an embargo underway. However, it's about to end, and I'm sure history will look back and go, 30 years, that wasn't a long time. So stop your complaining.
Yeah, and we know that the Cold War, there was the Americans and the Russians were also working together while the Cold War was happening. So in terms of space,
well, yeah, there was cooperation. There was some cooperation, not a lot. There was some cooperation. Since the Cold War ended, there's been even more cooperation. Yes. We were using their Russian spacecraft to get to our astronauts to the ISS. That wouldn't have happened during the Cold War. So there was some, but I see that as a positive thing. I don't see it as a nefarious thing.
No, of course, but that's going to change now. The need for a taxi to get to space, the American need to have Russian shuttles or things to get to space, is going to change with SpaceX. I believe they have new equipment coming. I've been monitoring that process, and then we have Bigelow, the company Bigelow is highly active in new space materials and new things concerning space, and they talk about extraterrestrials openly.
Bigelow has. Yeah. Bigelow Aerospace is closed right now. It's not operating. It's a pandemic thing. I would expect that he will reopen after next year. Wouldn't surprise me. Certainly he'll reopen if we get a major disclosure development. But the SpaceX is another example of why the truth embargo's days have numbered. You've got China going to the moon, Mars. You've got now civilian projects coming up. Ultimately, he's going to go to space, go to the moon. So if there's anything out there, and I'm talking artifacts, right, remains of intelligent design other than human, the ability to keep that covered up, keep that hidden, It's just going to get more and more difficult. And
Yes.
so again, the truth embargo is days are numbered, and that's good. It would be best for all concerned if the government goes ahead and holds hearings and makes the announcement and not be forced into it because some Chinese rover on the moon comes across something that wasn't made on Earth or on Mars, same thing, or another country. So that's not going to be, I think, a good thing for the United States. It's going to be embarrassing, and it's going to look poor. So everybody's benefits by getting disclosure out of the way so that all nations and private entities can go out in space looking for whatever, finding whatever, and telling us about it immediately. And so the whole planet can get really excited about the future as we start to learn about the rest of the galaxy and whatever connection the rest of the galaxy has with us. That will be a fun time, and we need some fun. Okay, let me tell you, this planet is desperate for some fun.
Well, I think if they find things like on Mars or something, that there's going to be issues about who's controlling it, who is the owner of the
Yeah, look, there have already been some treaties about space, proprietary space issues. Some of them are dated.
It's going
It
to
won't be that difficult to pass. It won't be that difficult to come up with some understandings. But we do. This will be another aspect of exopolitics, space law. Space law will have to get much more sophisticated and comprehensive if disclosure takes place. And so I'm sure there'll be plenty of lawyers more than happy to specialize in that. But that's coming, and so I'm not too worried about China claiming the moon and, you know, Elon Musk claiming Mars.
Yes.
Finders keepers. It's my planet, right? I'm setting up, and I'm changing the name to Musk. The planet Musk.
Musk,
Yes.
he told us that the pyramids were in effect an extraterrestrial creation, and it was all.
He likes to have fun.
I think it was a little bit of fun, but perhaps it went out of control for a while.
He has had some out of control moments, yeah, but you can't argue with being the second richest man in the world and a leader in space. I guess it would have been shocking if the person who would end up, I mean, like in a science fiction novel, being the leader of the commercialization of space was going to be some button down, sweater wearing, boring guy. I mean, or woman. It was going to be an unusual person, and he certainly meets that criteria.
And as the largest company on reverse engineering, the Bigelow company, I think that is the largest company with the largest contracts with the Pentagon on the issue of reverse engineering extraterrestrial materials.
I think I'll have to clarify that for you, Bart. I do not believe that Bigelow has contracts with reverse engineering materials. Okay. What he has some of those materials for research, which was provided to him under the ATIP program, and maybe got some on his own, and he's been studying them. But reverse engineering, no. And again, I believe they've they shut down for a while. The reverse engineering of ETIC technology, we can guess where it may be happening, but we don't know for sure. That's all totally classified. Okay. Lockheed comes to mind. It's almost certain that Lockheed probably has some of that, but it could be anywhere, and it's absolutely classified. Anything you hear in the public domain, it's probably not true, because that is the highest classified stuff there is in the government, in my view, is the reverse engineering of ET tech, and also perhaps renovating ET tech. In other words, renovating any crash vehicles so they are operable or anything like that. That's absolutely classified at the highest level.
Okay. You're the executive director of the Paradigm Research Group. I check your website quite often. What is at this point, your main objective to speed up the truth embargo, or or bring the extraterrestrial issue on the table?
Since my efforts during the Clinton campaign, plus the citizen hearing on disclosure, pretty much exhausted my resources. So from once the election was done, my resources were extremely limited, and I didn't have a way to go. And so I stepped off the field. So for most of the last 4 years, I have not been particularly active. I did conferences and continued to do some interviews. But overall, I just stepped back. And what happened, of course, is the TTSA turns up in October of 2017. And they literally dominated. They immediately, quickly dominated the disclosure process. They're the lead. They have the resources, they have the gravitas, they have the connections, and they even have the backing of a substantial number of people within the Department of Defense. So they're in another league altogether. And so, to some degree, I'm also just staying out of the way, but watching them. In other words, most of what I do is watching the TTSA do what they do. So now, and then of course the pandemic happened, and so I have been very limited. However, I have been able to set up an office, a studio, and get some things in order. So I am ready to get back on the field, and that will start happening very soon. And so you may see me in the media, you may see me here, there, whatever, be more active. But if I were to say what is a project I'm working on right now, the project I'll be working on for the next certainly 3 months, and more intensively as time goes by. In other words, I'll get more intense with each passing week, is to make the strongest case possible that the intentions of the To the Stars Academy is to get citizen hearings and end the truth embargo. I don't know that for a fact. They don't correspond with me. They haven't told me what their plans are. I am inferring it from everything that they have done and said and other things that are happening. It's an educated speculation, but it's certainly a reasonable speculation. And so I'm going to be doing that for one reason primarily, and that is to take away any backdoor they might use to back out. In other words, once the administration is in, there will be those advising people in the Congress, nah, it's not the time, it's a distraction, or I just don't think it's real, whatever. The president may have some feelings like that. And so there will be the possibility that they may say, well, we'll just stop, and we're going to hold off and kick the can down the road another year or two. Mm-hmm. I'm going to try to make it as hard as possible for them to do that. And how do you do that? You push the issue out, you push the concept out, you push the idea of the hearings out, you spread it amongst the media, you get coverage, and so forth. And then so that as soon as the new administration is underway, you've got media coming right at them, wanting to know, are you going to do hearings? And if there's enough of that, the ability to simply put it all on hold could vanish. And so I'm just basically trying to close the back door. That is my project. Yeah. I'm not in the front of this. They're the lead. I'm not going to be out there in front, that's for sure. But I'm going to be kind of in the background going, okay, keep going. No backing up.
Well, isn't that a nuisance for all the older organizations like BRG and other UFO communities, that TTSA is taking this lead very strongly and they don't cooperate with other people? Isn't that a nuisance?
There's nothing inappropriate of them taking the lead. They have the ability to take the lead. They're able to do stuff none of us could do. There have been a number of efforts to get congressional hearings. They've all failed. But they have the critical mass. They have what is needed. We haven't had that. But for years, we were always trying to encourage the government to get involved, okay? Help us out. Well, that happened. Only it wasn't the government directly. It was an organization that emerged out of the military intelligence complex, which was necessary because the MIC can't directly engage this issue. So we finally got the help we wanted. Hey, great. So that's not a problem. In terms of their interaction and how they've handled the citizen science research activist effort, which is 70 years on, it's some are frustrated. They would have loved to have gotten recognized. They would have loved to be kind of brought up on the stage, you know, like the rock group that invites some music up and they say, come on up, you know, and jam with us, right? You know, oh, fantastic. But no, I understand why they really couldn't do that, because in order to get the media's attention at the way they wanted it, put out what they wanted to do, get the political people on the Hill engaged and so forth, they didn't want to direct them or draw them into the whole 70-year history and everything else it's done. I mean, it's huge and complex and messy, because there's been good research and bad research. There's been real witnesses and fake witnesses, all kinds of stuff, because we hadn't had the resources to bottle, you know, this thing up tightly and do it all the way it should be done. We did the best we could, but you didn't want to draw them into that, because it's not going to help. What they wanted to do was to essentially start from scratch in a way, not totally from scratch, but it's a whole new thing. Okay, here we are. Here's what we've got. Right. Look at this.
Okay.
What are you going to do? Right. And move forward. And that made it easier for them to get the media coverage they got. It made it easy. Certainly, it made it easier for them to go up on the Hill.
Yeah.
Right. I've been up on the Hill, but I assure you, I didn't have the impact that they do. And so I understand that, but I will guess, speculate, that if disclosure takes place, and they've crossed the end zone and they've spiked the football, and they're holding up the trophy, you know, the Super Bowl trophy. I think after that, I have a feeling they will then reach out. They will be constructive in letting the people at the top end know that, you know, we did stand on the shoulders of thousands and thousands of citizens who tried to do this work in spite of the fact the government claimed there was nothing there to do.
Yeah, but your work and PRG is essential in disclosure. It was essential, and it is essential.
It helped, but that's in the past.
Now,
now, the reason it's not, look, what's most important to me is less recognition, though I think it's coming for all of my colleagues. But what's more important is that we do get a chance to speak, that they will listen, they will bring us in and get our perspective. We are the people, we are just regular citizens, and I think, and we have a lot of knowledge. And hopefully they will allow us to come up on the stage. Not so much to be recognized, but to say something, to be part of it, to be part of the post-disclosure world. I think that'll happen, and that'll be fine. Recognition, history will get, look, history gives recognition to what history wants to give recognition to, okay? You can't claim it, you can't demand it, and all you can do is do the best you can. History will decide who to recognize. So I haven't lost a lot of sleep over it. Though initially I was wondering, gee, are we just going to be totally left out of this? But I've seen enough to know that I think we'll be pleased with how things go for the citizen science side, as well as the TTSA side.
Is it possible, Steve, that the Pentagon could use TTSA as a scapegoat whenever something goes wrong in the future? Is that still something that could happen?
I don't see that. If you look at the actions, what the response to the TTSA has been from the military intelligence community, which includes the Navy and the Army, and even the DoD, it's been relatively appropriate. They've actually tried to get on the right side of the issue a little bit without setting things on fire. And there's been little indication that any entity within the military intelligence complex, MIC, whether it's the DoD, whether it's the armed services or the CIA, just no indication that I have seen yet of efforts on the part of any of those entities to stop this, to try to take it down or undermine it. There was confusion, particularly early on, where people didn't know what the hell was going on, and they were asked questions, and they said things which seemed to confuse things, particularly the DOD and their public affairs office. But that was mostly because they didn't know this was coming. When the DTSA launched, it caught, I'm sure, most of the entire military intelligence complex by surprise, and they had to react. There might have been some internal, how would you say, information passed around, meaning, okay, don't say anything, but this is coming, right? Just to let you know, amongst people that had shared views, but no, they didn't know. They couldn't. Yeah. If the TTSA had sent out emails to all the key agencies saying we're planning to do this, want to let you know in advance, there's a good chance it never would have happened. Right? It would have created a lot of blowback. So I think they surprised the MIC. I'd love to ask them that. I'd love one day to know, did they surprise the MIC? And it'd be fun to know what the answer is.
And why is the Navy, every footage that is released at this point, like Gimbal and Go Fast, it's TikTok. All Navy. You don't have things from the USAF, United States Air Force. You don't have the Army. And I know from a good source in the USAF that they have the highly advanced network of satellites, and they see very much. And the footage is never used at this point. Is there a reason for that, do you think?
Again, the disclosure process and what they're trying to do is extremely complicated, and a lot of decisions had to be made. In other words, what information are you going to put out, and so forth. And I think that the decision was made that the evidence that they wanted to start with was the Navy incidents. The Navy has been involved in the ET issue for a very long time. Most of us know that, though the general public doesn't know that. But those incidents were out over the ocean, not over U.S. land territory, and of course, they had the gun camera footage and everything, so it was clean and focused. It's all focused on the Navy, right? Now you get evidence from different military sources, Air Force, right? NORAD, whatever, it gets much more complicated. You want to have powerful evidence that involves a defined group and not try to draw in multiple groups. So that's going to make it much more difficult for the military intelligence community to respond. All right, so all the focus is on a Navy. Okay, by the way, the fact is that, remember, the Navy's out there in the ocean, and they've got super high-tech equipment, right? And I don't think anybody would be shocked to know that the extraterrestrial craft can operate a little more freely out there in the middle of the ocean than they can over land. Right? And so not only that, but we know that they can also go underwater. And so the idea that such encounters might happen over water, I think, particularly over oceans, probably is a significant thing. And so the Navy is having, I think, perhaps more of those kind of encounters than the Air Force is over land. I don't know. But there's that. So these are many considerations, and ultimately they decided to focus on the Navy and that evidence, right? I'm sure they kind of knew what they had. They knew the witnesses that might be available, and they felt, hey, strong stuff, straightforward. And it's also possible that the Navy might internally have let some TTSA people know, or ATIP people know. Going back to ATIP, it goes all the way back to 2007. That if you decide to go forward, we're kind of with you, meaning we could be supportive. That's our kind of position internally. Whereas some of the other, maybe the Air Force or other entities of the government may not have felt that way. So they may have had some understanding the Navy was going to be cooperative if they go forward in using Navy evidence. Who knows? We don't know. The whole origin of the TTSA and the background leading up to it, everything else, is not known. We only have a little bits and pieces. this is an extremely important history that hopefully will be brought out and written up extensively. We need to know how it all happened, how it came together, what agencies were involved, what people were involved, how tough was it, what were the setbacks. I mean, this is a fantastic story. Hopefully will not be suppressed for national security reasons, and we will get to know the full origin of the TTSA.
Yeah. Do you follow the international developments on the extraterrestrial issue? Like, for instance,
well, I get articles from around the world, English language press,
okay.
and usually if something's happened in another country, I'll sort of learn about it. I don't dive into it. There's, something is usually happening every once in a while in South America, particularly. Yeah, and I have plenty of articles about international stuff on my archives. Last 4 years, again, things have slowed down. I mean, if it wasn't for the TTSA, there wouldn't be that much happening. And then when the pandemic arrived, but believe me, after January 20, don't be surprised if some other nations start doing their thing. All right. In other words, if you know the party is coming, you want to get all dressed up, right?
Yeah.
Hire a limo, okay, and bring some gifts, and you want to get involved. And so I expect some nations to drop some things into play after January 20, if I'm right about the fact that hearings are slated.
Yeah. So you probably know, Steve, that we are also highly active in the field. We do research. Our organization, we are BUFON Transology, and the BUFON stands for the Belgian UFO Network.
Right.
But we also work on disclosure, and the best way to do it here in Belgium is not through the media, because the media is they are not interested. In the 10 years I was active, I had only one interview. I have now several articles in the Netherlands, our neighboring country. So they are very interested over there. But the media is not really the strong way to go on this. What we do now is we press on correspondence with the monarchy. So in Belgium, we have a king, still a king. It's not a president. And we are now writing the second letter. The first was in 2017. We had a nice reply, but we didn't get an audience, which is normal at that point. But we will press on with this. And the reason for that is that we try to establish an official bureau of UAP investigation over here. That's what we want to do.
Yeah.
And I think the only way to do it is through the monarchy, that they can get a funding or something, or that they say, for instance, the military over here, we could slide you in there. You can have some sort of cooperation with that office or something. What's your opinion on these developments over here?
I'm happy for any efforts in any country to raise the issue, particularly the disclosure issue, because I think we're past. Here's more evidence. Here's more lights in the sky, right? It's disclosure. With Belgium, for instance, look, the Belgium is a very small country, and all of the small countries, whether they're technological, high developed or less developed, there's no upside. There's just no upside for them to get into this. They don't have the influence and the power that the big countries have. It's not that people don't care. It's just that, hey, Belgium or whatever, even Switzerland is like, somebody there is interested in the subject, or one of the, even Japan was like, it didn't get a big response. And so the smaller countries are leaving it to the big guys. China, Russia, United States, certainly. India could be one of those big guys. It's got so many issues because of the population. Maybe UK, but certainly the big guys and the nuclear powers. The ones that have the ET tech, the ones that have the information and the gun camera footage in large. And they'll do it when they do it. Meanwhile, we're just going to try to have a nice country here, right, and do well. So it doesn't bother me. However, anybody, and I'm going to be getting something out on this soon. I'm going to try to revitalize the Exopolitics World Network, which has been in essentially, suspension, not suspension, but just kind of drifting for a long time. But I think the time is right to reconstitute it. Once disclosure takes place, small countries, large countries won't matter. Every country is going to want to be involved. Every country is going to have something to say. Belgium, for instance, had some very famous sightings many years ago. Yep. I'm sure they want to get out there and talk about that, and they'll want to say, hey, look, we had that, and here's what we know. There's contactees in virtually every country in the world. So every country's going to be in play. And so I encourage those who are interested in this issue in their country, even if you're not getting a lot of response from the media or the government doesn't have much to say, keep doing your thing. Because when things break, the government is going to want to talk to you. Yeah. And you might be able to play a role in how the government engages the issue in the post-disclosure world. And it'll be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Steve. Well, we're getting close to the hour, so I'm gonna make it shorter. There is a disturbing item on our agenda in terms of in the UFO communities. There is a tendency to see the nuts and bolts extraterrestrial thing as something more of interdimensional. And the problem that I have with this is that it of course it's interdimensional. We know that they have technology to do that. That seems quite normal. But we get in that gray area which draws out things like aliens or demons and all that stuff, because they are non-corporeal and all these things. And I think it's disturbing. I don't know what you think about it, Steve.
Everybody is going to have their own speculations and theories about the ETs. And there will be those that, not surprising, are going to want to cast the ET in some religious way, or even negative religious way, as demons and so forth. Nothing we can do about that. People are going to think what they think. I don't worry about it, because it's not going to. That thinking or those views are not going to direct where this all goes down the line. It may be small pockets of people may hold those beliefs, and that it'll be sort of an insulated thing. But in terms of the larger picture, no, it's not going to matter. In terms of dimensionality, well, this interdimension, it depends what you mean by interdimension. It's a legitimate speculation, and it's not a problem, right? That it's actually a scientific interpretation. I don't think they're interdimensional, because interdimensional hasn't been proven. We still haven't proven their dimensions beyond the 3+ time that we have now, though we have some interesting math about that in physics. Okay, fine. And some of the things that the ETs do, which seem to imply dimensional manipulation, may not be, but I understand why people might think that. For instance, their ability to move through walls. Mm-hmm. That could involve dimensional manipulation, or maybe not, right? It doesn't have to be. And in terms of interstellar drive, the work around relativity, the work around the relativistic speed barrier may not involve dimensionality. I mean, let me put it this way. It may involve manipulating the dimensions we have, the dimensions of space, for instance. And so that's dimensional. It's like they're manipulating our dimensions without getting into any other dimensions. But for most lay people, interdimensionality means that you're actually moving out of our dimensions into another dimension, and that's allowing you to do stuff. I don't see the evidence for that yet, so I'm not losing any sleep over that. We'll see. But just in general, if you take the information that's arised, there's lots of interesting things there that people can grab and then run with, right? And go off here and go off there. Hey, that's not surprising. The government hasn't confirmed it yet. We don't have a fully engaged scientific community. We're not really dealing with this in the appropriate way. We're treating it like it doesn't exist, or it's a secret, or whatever. And so, yeah, the lay people are going to have a lot of confusing and off the wall ideas. That's the government's fault. All right, that's not the people's fault. That's the government's fault. And when we finally get in the truth business, we finally start dealing with this issue at the degree that it deserves, which is massive, a lot of that'll go away.
Okay, we have in our team we have a labo technician, a lab technician, sorry, English, and this guy, he's really thorough. He does his job very well on crop circles. And what we do, we go to crop circles in England or in France. We take samples. We take samples from in the circles and out the circles to control them, to see if there is a difference. And the difference is in heat source that made the circle. And the way he does it is he replants the seeds, and he can check in about a year if a heat source manipulated the spread of the circle through the molecules of the plants itself. And this is an interesting process, because if you see that in a mathematical equation, you see that the plants outside of the circle didn't have the manipulation that those have in the circle.
Right.
Not with all crop circles. There are circles that are unaffected. And this guy, he's doing this before our organization for, I think, 2 decades at this point. And I told him, is this extraterrestrial then? If the heat source, the electromagnetic source that manipulates it, is it? Sometimes he says it could be, it could very well be, but at other times it could also be a satellite, a military satellite that's testing something. So that's an interesting notion.
Look, there's been a lot of wonderful research done on crop circles. Crop circles have kind of slid way in the background.
Yeah.
People have gotten used to it. It's just not a big deal anymore. I know they continue. But I think the research has taken us to the point where generally I think the good researchers can tell you which crop circles are human-made and which are not human-made.
We do it all the time. We do it,
and they're starting to learn a little bit more how they think they're made. There is no evidence that humans have the technology to do these crop circles, all of these crop circles, right? Given enough time, a group of people can go out and do a crop circle, but there's no evidence that we have the ability to do the crop circles with the effects that are seen by the researchers. And particularly, we don't have the effects to lay them down in seconds, which has been, or minutes, which has been confirmed by people that have gone to UK for the crop circle seasons. So yeah, could a satellite be doing it? Yeah. Is there any evidence that we have the tech to be able to lay down a pattern from a satellite like that in minutes? No, there's no evidence for that.
Okay.
And so okay, so it's okay. Well, fine. Then why ET? Well, right. Remember, there's a whole bunch of evidence for extraterrestrials. You don't need crop circles to know there's extraterrestrials here, right?
Yeah, sure.
Massive evidence. So we know there's ETs here, and these things are happening, and we can't find a human explanation. The idea that it's probably ET is pretty straightforward, right? But under the truth embargo, there is no truth to any of this. And so when you look at the crop circles, there's no ETs according to the government. So hey, it could be whatever. It could be satellites. Could be no. There's ET. So the truth embargo, one of the ways it works is to make it very hard to come to conclusions about this, because they deny the reality of that, right? And they fragment it, right? Where in science, that's what you do. You take in the whole body of evidence to see what bearing it has on a particular thing you're dealing with. But that's denied under the truth embargo. So again, that's why we have a citizen science effort as opposed to an academic science effort.
Yeah,
the schools and universities will have one of the bigger PR problems. Their utter failure in this regard is stark, and I believe calls for a major reform in university systems around the world. And you fail at this level and this magnitude, there's something really wrong. Well, we have to fix this. So yeah, but I love crop. I don't have many pictures of them, but I know some researchers, and They did great work, but unless the ETs escalate that in some way, like the ETs on a given weekend could put down 10,000 circles in 10 countries, that would get, I think, a lot of people's attention. Like, how many Doug and Daves would it take to do that? But they've chosen not to. The ETs they put them down.
Yeah.
Humans kind of respond, a little of their thing, and then they put some more down, and it's kind of like that's all they want to do. I've always viewed it as a calling card.
Yeah.
I've used the ET crop circle is like that card you occasionally put out to a friend to let them know you care, right?
Okay.
Let them know that you're there, right? I've always kind of looked at it that way. But anyway, I'm glad your friend's doing that work. Keep doing more, because again,
doing it.
After disclosure, any research in this area will get plenty of attention, and he will be rewarded with acknowledgement and attention.
Well, we're gonna do some publications on the lab work soon on the website, so be sure to check it. And as a last question, Steve, are you starring soon in the Ancient Aliens series again?
I was not. I was not interviewed for the current season.
Okay.
They might have used some older footage. I don't know. Okay. But I don't know specifically. But of course, as you know, the pandemic and other things totally changed that. I look forward to getting back on Ancient Aliens, maybe some other series next year. So that'll be good. But Ancient Aliens, the one I just saw the other day was excellent. It was on, what was it on? It was on, I can't remember. Anyway, I love the series. You know, Kevin Burns, the original, the guy who created Prometheus and wrote many of the Ancient Aliens, has passed at a young age, sadly. But apparently they're going to continue, so I'm pleased about that. So anyway, enjoy the interview. Let me just let your people know that my website is paradigmresearchgroup.org. You can sign up for the free updates list, which I haven't sent out for quite a while, but I'm about to start up again there. It's a great deal of information there. There's a page for making contributions and supporting the work of PRG. I have a podcast which will start soon. I'm waiting pretty much for the electoral vote to be certified. I think that kind of will take us to a calmer place, and things will settle down a little bit. And then I'm going to launch it's called the Disclosure Wire podcast. It has a website, disclosurewire.org. It has a YouTube channel and has everything, but disclosurewire.org will get you there. And it'll go up soon. So that's coming. And also, I'll have some smaller projects I'll be launching, but I am going to be making a major effort to get back on the media very soon. I have made preparations for that. And so I'm hoping to get some cable news talk time.
Yeah, you would love
soon,
that.
And be able to get involved that way.
Well, we keep on following your work, Steve, and we love you down here. You're doing a great job, so keep at it.
I look forward to visiting Belgium again. I've been there, and I'd like to and it's a great place. I look forward to Europe in general, and I'll certainly make sure to visit Belgium.
If there's a possibility for a symposium or something here, we'll check with you for sure. So, okay, I'll catch you next time, Steve. Thank you.
A pleasure.
And take care.
Very good.
Okay, goodbye, Steve.
All done? All righty. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.